Show. I am Joe, and I'm your host every Tuesday evening right here on WNRI 99.9 on the FM dial, 1380 AM, and of course on WNRI.com, where we are streaming 24/7. You can listen to us for free. There's no paywall. WNRI.com. So we are here every Tuesday evening at 6. We rebroadcast this show Saturdays at 1 o'clock. So if you don't catch the show on Tuesday, you can catch it again on Saturday. And we try to upload the show to Spotify, so it's always there kind of just sitting around for you if you want to. A little about me. I've been a realtor since 2006. I work at a company called Remax Preferred. We have offices in North Providence where I work, also in Cumberland and Smithfield. And I work with buyers and sellers of real estate in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. But if you know someone who's looking to buy in other states, or you want to buy down in Florida, I have colleagues of mine that are kind of my teammates, and I can refer you to those people. So you just have to reach out. You can give me a call, 401-409-5030, or text, again, 401-409-5030, and I'll answer any questions you have. Quick shout out to our sponsors. I want to thank Anthony Betancourt and his crew over at Compass Title and Escrow. They take care of buyers and sellers. They do closing and title work. They're actually working on a short sale right now with Compass Law, helping sellers of mine with their transaction. And then, of course, we have Vern Rainville. Vern Rainville is a licensed insurance adjuster. He's licensed by the state of Rhode Island, and he works for you, the homeowner, not the insurance company. So if you have a claim or think you have a claim, you want to give him a call, because he may be able to save you some money. Make sure that you are entitled to everything that you should get from your insurance policy. So Vern Rainville, 484-300-8495. That's 484-300-8495. Vern Rainville. It's not a Rhode Island phone number, but he's a Rhode Island guy. He will return your phone call within 24 hours. All you have to do is give him a call. If you have any questions, you give us a call here at the station, 401-769-0600. That's 401-769-0600, and we'll answer questions. And I think we may have a caller right now. Hold on one second. Let me see if we can switch this over. Hello, caller. Good. Who's calling? I can. Yes. Yeah, well, so they're trying to increase the transfer tax here in Rhode Island, which means every time someone sells a house, they have to pay more in taxes. And, you know, it's expensive enough for people to buy and sell homes. And so we are definitely against that. We don't want to make Rhode Island less attractive than it has to be for people to buy property here and then to sell property here, because they try to couch this as if it's something that's only going to hurt the quote-unquote Taylor Swifts. But Taylor Swift, believe me, is not going to feel any tax that, any transfer tax on property that she sells, just like the buyer wouldn't feel it. But the homeowner will feel it, the average homeowner, okay? The median price of a home in Rhode Island is about, $500,000. So this can add up, okay? This can add up. And, I would suggest everybody just, call your legislator and tell them, not only with this, you don't want to do anything that's going to make it more expensive for people to buy or sell real estate or own real estate. I don't believe they voted on it yet. I'm actually going to look that up right now to see if they voted on it, because it's coming up this week. It's in the House, and I haven't seen if they voted on it yet. But I would definitely, you can certainly check it out online at Go Local Prov and try and get the latest news there on that. But I haven't checked. I checked it this morning, but I've been too busy all afternoon to follow up on that. But yep, exactly. Yeah, per thousand. Yeah. So if you multiply that by 500, which is 500,000, that's a lot of money. So capital gains, that's totally different, okay? Because this affects people, the transfer of all real estate. So if you're selling the house that you live in, or you're selling an apartment building that you have as an investment, you still have to pay this. A capital gain, you don't have to pay a capital gain on a house that's your primary residence, okay? So that's a little bit different. When you have vacation homes or second properties, you want to talk with a tax professional about any capital gains, because capital gains taxes can change from one year to the next. So what we're talking about today could be valid, but then 9 months from now they're talking about a new budget and it could impact you more positively or more negatively going forward. So capital gains, you want to have that conversation with your accountant or whatever tax professional that you use. But the transfer tax, that affects everybody. Single family homeowners, whether you own the smallest little cottage in the state, that's the least expensive property in the state, or you're selling a multi-million-dollar waterfront property, everybody has to pay a transfer tax. If it's an investment property, a condominium, whatever it is, you have to pay the transfer tax. Okay. Some yes, some no. Rhode Island, unfortunately, we have, it's certainly not the highest, but there are a lot of other taxes that we have to shoulder in this state, so we try not to make it any more costly for homeowners or home buyers or home sellers, because our wages lag behind. As you get closer to Boston or closer to New York City, the wages are higher. So yeah, the property taxes are higher in New York and New Jersey, but their wages are also almost exponentially higher than what we have here in Rhode Island. We're still primarily a blue-collar state with pockets of white-collar and then pink-collar workers as well. But that's something right now. Okay, it's called SALT, state and local taxes. That can still be written off, but this is something that's getting bandied around in Congress. Just like your mortgage interest deduction, that's something that the National Association of Realtors lobbies for. There's no one else that lobbies for homeowners at a national level other than the National Association of Realtors. And and I say we because myself and my guest, Jonathan Bolano, who's going to come on in a moment, we are members of the National Association of Realtors. And they lobby the Senate, the House, basically to allow homeowners to deduct the interest on their mortgage and the state taxes or local taxes. In some states, it's a state tax, a county tax, and a municipal tax. So the state taxes and the property taxes and the mortgage interest can be deducted from your federal taxes. So we lobby for that because it would be unfortunate if homeowners couldn't deduct all the interest that they pay on their mortgage. So now, do you own a home right now? Oh, okay, where do you live? Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, because if you lived there, that's right, you wouldn't pay a capital gains tax. So, but if you had another house, let's say that were like an investment property that you owned and you lived in another house, then you would have had to pay a capital gains tax on your gain. So if you purchased that house for $100,000 and then you sold it for $400,000 and it was an investment property, you would have paid a tax on that $300,000 gain in your property. Yeah, definitely. But I would suggest reach out to your legislators in the State House and talk to them and just let them know who you are, because normally they only hear from their constituents their voters when there's a Second Amendment bill or an abortion bill. Other than that, they never hear from any of us. So let them know that you're paying attention and you do not want this tax to be increased. It's a real estate transfer tax. So if you had a business, let's say you were a dentist and you owned a dentist office and you sold your dentist office because you're retiring and you want to, have a house by the lake. When you sell your dental office, even if it's a condominium, you would pay a real estate transfer tax. Oh yeah, any real estate transfer, yeah. Yep. My pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Bye. All right, we want to thank our caller for calling in. You folks, you're listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show right here on WNRI 99.9 FM, 1380 on the AM dial. And we're talking about the real estate tax. It's a transfer tax that they're trying to increase in the state of Rhode Island, and it's a pretty significant increase. It's going up to $6.30 per thousand. So do the math, okay? So if you have a $100,000 house, so there's 100 times 630, that's $630. If you have a $500,000 house, which is just about what the median price of a home is in Rhode Island, you're going to multiply that $6.35 by 500. So it's a good chunk of change, okay? So pay attention to what's going on in the news. Go to your local news website if it's one of the channels like WPRI, or if it's the Valley Breeze or Providence Business News or Go Local Prov, whatever it is. Pay attention and stay in touch with your legislators. So I want to welcome, we have a special guest tonight, a buddy of mine, a colleague, another realtor. He's here in the studio with me, Jonathan Bolano from the Bolano Team at EXP Realty. And I'm going to turn the camera around for those of you that are watching. Jonathan, say hello to our viewers and to our listeners right here on the radio.
Good evening and happy Tuesday.
Yes.
How are we doing, everybody? Thank you for the introduction. It's been working with Joe for quite some time now, and he's absolutely amazing.
Thank you. So, John, just folks, for the background, Jonathan and I, we've shown each other's houses. We've been at networking events and other volunteer events together. And he's a good guy, a stand-up guy. Someone that you would never have any, or I would never have any second thoughts about referring someone to him or working with him or just hanging out with him, because he's a good guy. So
I appreciate it.
My pleasure, brother.
Thank you. And what a good way to start the radio show right now with that question. I mean, how impactful that is to people's proceeds when they're talking about increasing these transfer taxes to just eat out of their proceeds that are already being eaten out of with all this other stuff going on in the market with compensation and such.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, I don't know if you've experienced this too in transactions, but it seems like there are just lots of reasons for people to take longer to make decisions, and transactions tend to be dragging out for one reason or another. Have you been noticing that?
Yes, I've been noticing that a lot.
Yeah. So, and I think a lot of that is due to just the changes that we're going through, either politically, culturally, economically. There were a lot of things that we're unsure about, and so it's people think, well, maybe I'll wait to see if there's a better house to put an offer in on, or
Right. There's a lot of volatility. I mean, nobody really knows where the market's going. A lot of the stuff that's happening politically is kind of like the first time that it's happened in the United States. So we're experiencing this, all of us, for the first time. I mean, it might have happened in other countries, but like even the tariffs, those started when George Washington was here, and then when we went to World War I. I mean, remember, we started the whole tax thing. The reason why America, I believe, started it, I could be a little ignorant on this, is because they were taxing tea.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, and then the World War I happened, and that's when they increased taxes the first time.
Yeah, right, exactly. So So yeah, it's amazing because, the Boston Tea Party, the people in this country, they got so ticked off at the king because he put like a 2% tax on tea.
Right.
They were like, you know what? The heck with you guys, and they threw all the tea into the Boston Harbor. Now here we are, and some times you're paying 30-40% income tax plus 7% sales tax plus all these other taxes on top of that, and people are just ignorant. It's like, for every $100 that I make, I come home with 27.
Right, right, and it's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad, and again, back to like the World War One, taxes came up, people
Yeah.
kind of forgot about it. It started to come down a little bit, and then World War II happened, and they were like, yeah, we can justify this, and
Right.
the whole community said the same. And then at that point, because it had been happening for so long, people just forgot all about it and kind of let it keep going.
Yeah.
And so this is the first time that we're talking about bringing in tariffs to get rid of taxes, and
Yeah.
nobody really knows what's going to happen.
No.
I mean,
No.
even the best economists.
Right, exactly. And the thing is, too, I saw a headline today. I didn't read the article. That there are a lot of economists out there who are manipulating the data to talk about why the tariffs would be bad.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just look around the world, and it's like we're the people that are, getting taken advantage. We, the American country, and our citizens, we're getting taken advantage of by the tariffs because other countries have either, there's nothing or virtually nothing compared to what
Right.
we're getting charged when we sell our stuff there.
Right. We're getting beat left and right.
Yeah. So and folks, what does this have to do with real estate? Well, we abandoned as a country. We abandoned the gold standard that started about. Actually, one of our senators from Rhode Island was part of that, over about 111 years ago, and then that was a partially getting off of the gold standard. Roosevelt did a little bit more, and then in 1971 or 72, we came completely off the gold standard. Now, what we have now is basically a fiat currency where if we need more money, we print it up. So we have these things called dollar bills, which are legal tender, and if you look at it, it's a note, which means it's money owed. And that money is owed to the Fed, which is not part of the government. It's a separate corporation that's controlled by a lot of wealthy families around the world that have been wealthy for hundreds of years. And if our country, if everything were based on, let's say, gold or even Bitcoin, it's a finite amount. So it's like, all right, we have, $37 trillion of gold or Bitcoin in the bank. Okay, we can't spend 38 trillion because we can't pay for it.
Right.
We can't pay for it. Whereas if now we just print up more money. So yeah, we'll print up another $1 trillion so we can, send money to other countries and teach them how to do whatever stuff that, the political forces want them to learn how to do. And that, folks, these are the things which drive up the cost of home ownership and the cost of homes.
Right, to build them and.
Right. The inflation. If you didn't have, if we didn't print money, we wouldn't have a problem with inflation like we do right now.
Right. Right.
So. We're geeking out over here, Jonathan and I. We're getting a little bit off the beaten track of real estate. So we started talking about how the real estate market right now, there's a lot of people are unsure about what's going on. What have you done in your business as a realtor, to comfort, to give your clients, whether they're buyers or sellers, just a little bit of an understanding about where we are? If you had someone who they're thinking about selling their house but they're not sure, what do you use to give them some comfort about making that decision?
Well, I'm an engineer by major, worked for government for a little bit, and the one thing that I learned along the way was the most important thing in any decision is to have enough information.
Yep.
And what's happening is a lot of folks, they are kind of just going off of rumors and things that they're hearing from maybe Instagram or TikTok, and people that don't really understand it like you or I do, where we're actually studying the market. And so my goal is to say, hey, listen, no strings attached. Let's just get you all the information you need in order to make a logical decision. And at that point, if it makes sense to move forward, let's do it. And if not, we'll walk away and we'll maybe revisit this 6 months to 12 months from now. So the first thing that I'm doing with, let's say it's a buyer. Buyer comes over, says, hey, I'm really interested in buying, but I don't think anything can really come of this, and I don't want to spend these astronomical prices. The thing I share with them is what you get on your pre-approval letter isn't the number that we're going to be buying the house at.
Right.
What we're going to do is we're going to find out what that max pre-approval is and say, okay, you're more than qualified to purchase a property, but now let's find out what are you comfortable with at a monthly mortgage payment, and then let's re-engineer that into a max affordability price. And that's the number that we work to minus some odd number. So depending on where we are in the market, if I notice that there's a lot of properties that are going $20,000-$30,000 over asking price, I'll deduct about $30,000. If we're in Massachusetts, I'll deduct about $50,000 or $60,000. But what that does is it gives them a chance to actually compete against other buyers, prospective buyers out there, in order to get that accepted and not go above their budget.
Right.
Unless it's like a 10 out of 10 property where we know that the roof is in great condition, the water, the well, whatever it is, all the utilities are in great condition, and that person's not going to have a problem. We call that a unicorn property. Unicorns don't exist, and therefore we will go maybe even a little bit above our budget because we know that this property is going to be good for another 15, 20 years, given a God thing doesn't happen and
Yeah.
knock the house over.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yes. And because that's the thing, it's people need facts. They need data. Okay.
Right.
And that's what I try to do is, here on the show, because data can be manipulated too. So when they talk about, they want the headlines to be bad, so they'll say, oh, home sales are down. Well, okay, maybe home sales are down because people are buying houses. So the price is going up, but there aren't a lot of houses for people to buy. So the number of houses people buying are down. Okay, we can have a conversation about whether that's good or bad. If prices are up, that's one thing. If there are price reductions on listings, that doesn't mean that home values are down. It just means that, maybe the realtor or the seller is getting a little too ambitious with pricing their home. So price reductions aren't necessarily an indication of declines in home values. Well, and a lot of times, the headlines, they just, oh my God, people get nervous.
Well, I think that what's happening is these big companies, they're able to accumulate a ton of data points on a large line. And what they're doing is they're hyper-focusing on specific spots in that data line that just so happens to fit the message that they're trying to convey. But if you, in like AT&T and Verizon do this, you notice on their graphs, whenever they're kind of competing against each other in commercials, they never actually put what's on the y-axis and what's on the x-axis.
Right.
And they do that purposefully so that way it looks like AT&T is doing really well versus Verizon, but they're just focused on different points on that number line, so that way it's not false advertisement, but it is deceiving.
Yeah, exactly. Just wanted to jump back to that conveyance tax. So this, I think they're voting on it tonight. So the House Finance Committee on the 10th had approved Rhode Island real estate conveyance tax, which will increase the total conveyance tax as much as 63%.
Wow.
So, where people are saying, oh, the cost of houses is going up 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, and everybody is complaining. Well, one tax going up 63%. Jonathan and I were just talking about the tea tax that the King of England imposed, and it was like 2%, and everybody flipped out about it 200 plus years ago. Now, one tax, which is really an unnecessary tax, is being increased 63%. Okay? So this is not good. In the last 2 years, real estate sales in Rhode Island have slowed to a crawl because we don't have enough houses to sell. So we want to encourage people to sell houses. Increasing the amount they have to pay in taxes when they sell a house is not going to make it more attractive for people to sell their home.
Right, it's going to prohibit it even more. And we were just on to do well with the interest rates coming down.
Right.
I think you were just speaking on this on your show the other day. We were down to 6.8 or 6.93.
Yep. Yeah, so folks, if you listen to the show, you know that I go to my trusty Mortgage News Daily every week just to be consistent, to see what the rates are. And today we have a 6.88 for a 30-year fixed rate, 6.43 for a 30-year FHA, and the 30-year VA 6.44. All three of those are down from where we were yesterday and indeed where we were last week. Now, the rate that you would get as a consumer, if you went to talk with a lender that I or Jonathan referred you to, you may get a rate that's lower, you may get a rate that's higher. It depends on a couple of things. Your credit, how much you're putting down, if you're buying a house to live in, if you're buying a single family, a multifamily, a condominium, if you're buying an investment property, a vacation property. These are all things that would definitely impact that rate. And then if you go to like one of our local lender companies, like a Navigant Credit Union or Shoreham Bank or Centerville Bank, they would they may have or even Bank 5, where my buddy Dave Campagnon works, they may have portfolio products for you which could accommodate unique situations. But that's why it's always very important to work with local lenders.
Correct.
Now, Jonathan, who do you typically like to use? Who are some of the lenders that you like to work with?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in exactly what you said, where local lenders are the most impactful, especially when trying to get an offer accepted, because that relationship that they have with other agents, or even the what's the word I'm looking for? The not the experience, the reputation they have in that market is going to also help that agent look at that with a positive light. So we work with Wendy Posada from Main Street Home Loans.
Okay.
She's
Yep.
Rhode Island Housing's, I think she was like number 2
Yeah,
lender
she's up
last
there.
year.
Yep, for Rhode Island Housing. Yep.
And she does really phenomenal. And then there's Nick Principe with Annie Mac. I have Jillian Shea from Fairway. There's Jonathan Bolano. He's also with Fairway. There's Kelsey Huntoon with Milestone. She does wholesales. So we work with a plethora of folks, and what we're really focused on is folks that are willing to take their time with the client, guide them, hold their hand, but also do their due diligence on that pre-approval, because we want that pre-approval borderline commitment, so that way when we go into contract, you as the other agent know for a fact this is going to make it to the closing table. God, like, given some God crazy thing happens.
Right.
But I like to ensure, like, that's one of the things that I think that I like to bring forward with the team, is that if you're going to work with us, you know we've done our due diligence on our side, and only like an act of God changes anything. Other than that, well, this makes it to the closing table.
Yeah. Now, folks, I want to point out, so of all the lenders that Jonathan just mentioned, I'm acquainted with one, I kind of know another one, and I've never worked with any of them. But these are good lenders, good local lenders that he works with. That's why when you're working with a realtor, I will refer my client to, any one of my team of vendor partners that I work with for lenders, based on my experience and who I've worked with. But other realtors, we have their own kind of team of people that they're experienced with, and there are lots of good lenders. But the number one thing you want is you want a local lender.
Right.
And your realtor will be able to provide you with valuable advice and suggestions based on what you're looking for, what you indicate your income is and your credit history is and things like that. They'll kind of give you guidance for the best lender for you.
Right. And also somebody that's going to do their due diligence properly to ensure that you're not going to have any surprises. For example, they don't grab bank statements until they go into contract, and then they find out, oh, there's child support.
Right.
Deal blown up.
Yeah, exactly. So again, Jonathan said the word that I talk about every week: in real estate, surprises are never good.
Right.
I've never had a surprise at any point during a real estate transaction. It's like, oh yes, awesome.
Another problem today.
Right. It doesn't happen. Every time it's a surprise, it's like, oh no, there's back in the day when you had all these short sales and foreclosures, it's like, oh no, there's a $10,000 car lien on top of that on this house, or, oh, the person, they can't prove their overtime income or whatever.
Oh, right.
And a lot of these problems can be circumvented, can be avoided by working with a good lender, because when they pre-approve people up front and actually pre-underwrite them up front, that eliminates a lot of problems. And also you have lenders that educate the consumer.
Don't buy a car before you close.
Right. Don't change jobs, Don't buy furniture on, 36 months, same as cash. Don't do anything until an hour after closing, or, until after it's recorded, but because these are things that can be problematic. And I know I've had situations where there have been surprises on the real estate side of things, and it's like, wait a minute, the seller, they misrepresented on this disclosures about that, so now we have to put our negotiation hat and go back and try and renegotiate something because they lied on a document. And that can make us pull our hair out. That can be, stressful. But part of our job is to solve problems.
Right. And sometimes the seller doesn't do it because they do it trying to be deceitful. Sometimes they just don't know.
Yeah. Right.
Like
Exactly.
they're expected to know all these things, and I mean, you don't. But that's our job. That's why they want to hire a realtor that can come in and do a quick housekeeping, like, brainstorm on how to fix that problem, because we deal with this all the time. We know who to talk to, and we know where to go.
Yep.
But that's the value of working with a realtor. That it's not so much about number of years of experience, but it's how much work ethic they have to help you actually achieve the goal that you're trying to achieve, which may be either buying or selling.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the thing too. You can be in the business for 25 years doing one deal a year, and then you only pay attention to the market during that one transaction. Or you could be someone that does 5 deals a year, but you eat and breathe,
Real estate.
the real estate business. So you're going to know more about what's going on than the person who doesn't. Even if they do a lot of transactions but they don't pay attention to what's going on in the atmosphere of real estate. And I always say, real estate business, quoting Tom Brady, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle.
Right.
And, you have to always be, kind of geeking out and looking online. Oh, what are interest rates? I watch the business show, Maria Bartiromo and all those shows just to find out what's going on in the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, price of oil is up today. It was $72 a barrel this morning. That's a big hike because a few weeks ago it was $57. So what does that mean? That means coming down the road, people are going to be spending more on gas and maybe more on oil in the winter if prices don't readjust. Okay, how is that going to hurt home buyers?
Right.
These are all things that we, as people in real estate professionals, things that we pay attention to. Now, talk a little bit about your story in real estate. How you started, just what got you to where the kind of person and the kind of professional you are.
So I accidentally fell into this just under a decade ago. I was home at the time. I was married. The person that I was with had just left their job in Boston to live down in Rhode Island with me, and they said that they wanted to get into real estate too. Well, they wanted to get into real estate because they were bored just sitting at home twiddling their thumbs. So I said, all right. Well, I've always kind of had this interest in it because my dad was a real estate agent, and
oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, a long time ago with Century 21 over
Nice.
on Broad Street in Cumberland.
Get out of town.
Yeah, with John Gonzalez.
Okay.
Yeah, they were really close. But so I had some sort of interest there, but I got into it thinking this is just gonna be good vacation money.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I realized that this is something that I enjoyed doing, I couldn't stop. And so I was working at the government at that time as a civilian engineer. I was running a team of power engineers, doing testing on submarines. I was doing a lot of installs and de-installs on submarines as well. So I've been able to. It was a very cool experience.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go underway on a submarine for 1 week. So for a civilian, I got to accomplish or experience a lot. And I was just about to get into the Pentagon and the White House, but then COVID happened, and I was this close to having the job, and I was like, that's the last thing I wanted to accomplish. But anyways, so I get into real estate. I end up falling in love with it. I realize that this is something that I'm actually pretty good at, and I'm a lot better at it than I was at being an engineer, because being an engineer for me was just, it was I like working with people.
Mm-hmm. I
like being around people. I like problem solving, but I have a big interest in just humans and people and how they operate. So I in my second year, because of how much I had done my first year, I had agents coming up to me saying that they wanted to join the team, that I didn't have. It was just me and my ex, and I was like, well, this is what I can offer you. It was nothing like what most teams were doing, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. So right off the bat, I had 3 new people, and then every year it kind of just grew from there, and now we're at 17 people. We are covered in Rhode Island, Mass, Connecticut, and we have a guy in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just like you guys, we have branches of our business where we can help out in different countries, different states. So we're international at this point, which is really big for my team because we have a very diverse team of languages.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been a big person in diversity and just bringing people together. Both in mind, culture, and everything else. It's not, diversity to me isn't just one thing only.
Right.
It's a grouping of things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I've been able to create, and I love it. But that's kind of the story of how I got from where I am to where I am today.
And so you are bilingual.
I am, unfortunately, no.
No, you're not.
No, you'd think I was. I am half Latin, but I didn't grow up learning the language.
Yeah.
I mean, I can dance my butt off, but...
Right, yeah. Yeah,
I think
I want to talk about that too. Okay, so that's interesting because I thought you spoke Spanish. Okay, so
I wish.
My kids are growing up like you because I wanted when they were little. I was like, I want to teach them Italian and everything. And when only one parent speaks the language, it was just, it was tough. So I just got, I got lazy. So I didn't, because I'd talk to them in Italian, then I'd have to talk to my wife in English, and and it's just. It was kind of, at the end of the day, you come home from working, talking all day, and then it's just one other thing that's absorbing bandwidth. But I've been studying Spanish, and I can pick up a lot of Spanish. I can understand a lot of Spanish. I can't speak it yet. I mean, I was telling him we were at that salsa event last week for NAREP, and I can understand when they're chit chatting, but if it takes like 10 minutes for the words in my brain to translate, because they go from English to Italian to Spanish.
Oh, geez.
And then they travel down to my mouth, and then I get one sentence out, but it was 10 minutes ago. So it's like, so I don't even try talking. And I say, talk in Spanish, I'll respond in English.
Right.
But I love, like you, I love, the multicultural experience, both, the language, if it's music, if it's just, just it's really invigorating and I'm an enthusiastic, passionate person to begin with, and I appreciate other people that are like that too. And I just find that that's really rewarding. So tell our listeners a little bit about, because you can tear it up on the dance floor.
Yeah, so I grew up with 2 left feet, and probably aging myself on this, but when I was in college, that's when YouTube came out, and at that point, I had just found out what culture was at all. I grew up not understanding that there were different countries or different types of people. Like, everything just seemed normal to me, and I grew up in a very diverse community in Pawtucket, and just around everybody. So when I got to middle school, I changed cities, and people were walking around with flags on their backpacks and speaking different languages, and now I'm just sitting there kind of confused, like, what is all this? So I had a conversation with my dad. But anyways, fast forward a little bit more, as I was growing and getting more interested in culture, and even my own culture, being half Colombian, when I got to college, I ended up befriending a whole bunch of people that were Colombian, and I could never, like, be on the in because they all spoke Spanish and I didn't. In my mind, my immature mind, I'm like, well, I can always figure out how to dance, and then that's how I ended up changing around into that. But that's where I found music, and from there I learned how to dance salsa, bachata, Cape Verdeans, kizomba, pasada, funana. I did a little bit hip hop for a while, a little bit of African music. So I've touched on a lot of stuff. But when I was at college at URI, I started up a dance group called Exposure. And we were just a multicultural dance organization. We would throw really large events. We had 850 people at one of our events at one point.
Wow.
And they're still going on today. They've kind of changed. They're not so much into the, like, traditional dancing. They've evolved into something that's, like, more modernized. But the whole premise of it was about using music to bring people together. Because if there's one thing that all cultures have in common, it's that drum beat, that heart.
Yeah.
And it worked. It was really beautiful. One of the big events that we did, called the Big Bang, you see some kids walking down one of the hallways in the Memorial Union. We had 5 rooms: rock band room, Cape Verdean, Latin, and hip hop, and then a house trance techno area as well. And there's these kids walking down the hall with spiky hair, hanging around with these guys that have a little bit more baggy clothes. And they're all just high-fiving, laughing, and in my mind, I was just like, this is a really proud moment, because maybe there would have never been that opportunity for them to interact, and you don't know how that might have changed their course in life, and I just always found, I've always been passionate about just bringing people together.
And you mentioned YouTube, because that's how you started to learn how to dance, correct?
Yes, I would practice in front of the mirror, copying Ataca y La Alemana, and they were these great bachata dancers, and I just practiced a lot. Yeah. Made a lot of mistakes too.
So folks, if you think you have 2 left feet, I've seen Jonathan on the dance floor. He's really good, and he hasn't even really done a big tear up in my presence. But so, you can learn. You can learn. So now you enjoy, bringing people together. How does real estate? How is that helpful in real estate?
So what I've done is a lot of. So I enjoy sharing information. And bringing people together to share that information and kind of mastermind ideas helps both myself and other people grow. And I am of the same mindset as you, and I think you've said this in other shows, where like, maybe you're not the right fit for somebody, but they are, and there's a plenty to go around and feed everybody. So I'm of the same mindset where these people may not be speaking to the same community that I'm speaking to, and so it's okay, but what we're doing is we're raising the level of experience that the buyers and sellers are receiving by bringing everybody up together, and then we shine, and that's what becomes the basic foundation of, like, what it means to be a real estate agent. But I get a kick out of just bringing people together to be more people that are hungry, people that want to be good people and really help people out, because like in anything in life, there's your bad eggs. And so my goal is, how do we outshine all that?
That's right. That's exactly my thing. I mean, it's like, we're never going to eliminate bad realtors, attorneys, accountants, car salesmen, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but if the good can outshine the bad, that I think
that's a huge
win.
win.
That's
Yeah.
a win. One of the things that I enjoy about my job is getting. I did commercial real estate for the beginning of my career, and I didn't have any mojo for that.
Right.
It wasn't good for my soul, my psyche, whatever. And what I really enjoy doing now is working with home buyers, especially getting someone who's a renter, a tenant, and just educating them and saying, you know what, look, you're paying $1,800 a month in rent. Let's put together a plan. So maybe not tomorrow, but maybe in 6 months, 12 months, you can apply for a mortgage and be a homeowner.
Right. Stop paying 100% interest.
Right. Exactly. People say, oh, 6% interest. Well, what are you doing? I'm renting. Yeah, well, you're paying 100% interest,
Mm-hmm.
buddy. And I like working with people. Oh, my credit is terrible. Okay, your credit's terrible today. What do we need to do
Mm-hmm.
to fix your credit? Okay, let's bring Val Tridenti in. Maybe there's something she can do to improve your credit,
Right.
to repair your credit in 30 days, 60 days, and then other stuff that may take 6 months or a year. But if we put a plan together and you listen and do what you're supposed to do, great. Because every little bit that you can increase your FICO score means your interest rate is going to be that much lower, which means you're going to be paying less every month for the same amount of a loan.
And to add to that, some of these lenders are actually willing, so there's these credit people that want you to pay them thousands of dollars up front to improve your credit. A lot of these lenders will do it for free.
Yeah.
They'll look into your credit score, they'll say, hey, if you do this, 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 they'll run scenarios, and then boom,
Yeah.
as long as you follow what they're saying. I've seen some people come from low fives,
Mm-hmm.
mid fives to high sixes, low
Yeah.
sevens.
And I said this last week, or the week before on the show, don't make payments on things that are old without talking to your lender or a credit repair person.
Mm-hmm.
Because paying off a collection or a charge off for an $80 Sprint phone bill from 7 years ago will bring your credit number down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's all I know. You'd have to talk to a lender. I stay in my lane. I'm the real estate guy. But I know that that's not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to talk to the lender or a credit repair person before you make any decisions on what to do like that. I had a situation where a client of mine, she went to a credit repair company after I had gotten her pre-approved. And they were one of those credit repair companies that said, okay, give us access to everything. Don't make any payments. We'll make all of your payments. Send your payments to us. And what their method of operation is to make everybody wait 90 days and then negotiate a settlement. So that might sound all well and good, but for the client, their credit goes down, will drop 100 points in that time period.
Yeah.
And now, all of a sudden, your pre-approval is no good anymore because even though you got it 2 months ago, now you're 500, 100 points lower. So, you have to really, it makes sense to talk to a professional before you make decisions like that.
Yes.
And sometimes credit repair companies that, you don't know, and I'm not going to say any names, but it's just a name, a website. It's much better if there's a person, an individual that you can connect with.
Yeah, that's one thing that I feel like people keep trying to bypass today because we live in that 21st century with AI and everything else, and you still need that interpersonal. It's so important, and
Mm-hmm.
and some people don't even realize that. And that's why a lot of agents don't really do well right now because they just want to do everything solely online
Yeah.
and not be out there shaking hands, hugging,
Mm-hmm.
high fives.
Yeah, this is still a relationship business, and there are some things you can do digitally, social media, email, things like that. But you still have to talk to people on the phone, do Zoom calls, meet them in person for
Right.
coffee.
Make sure they're real and they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They've had them a little bit.
Exactly. Folks, you are listening to the Joe Luca Real Estate Show right here on WNRI 99.9 FM. I'm Joe. I'm your host every Tuesday evening from 6 to 7 o'clock p.m. We rebroadcast the show Saturdays at 1 o'clock. If you catch it, you can also catch us streaming on WNRI.com. I want to do a quick shout out to my sponsors. We have Vern Rainville, Public Insurance Adjuster. Vern works for you, the property owner, not the insurance company. He's licensed by the state of Rhode Island. 484-300-8495. That's 484-300-8495. He will return your call within 24 hours. He's a Rhode Island guy. Even though he doesn't have the 401 area code, I know, but believe me, he's a Rhode Island guy, and he will get back in touch with you. So please give him a call. Even if you had a potential claim 6 months, 12 months ago, he may still be able to hook you up, but you've got to give him a call first. 484-300-8495. And he'll ask you the questions he needs to, and come over the house when it's convenient to you, etc. I also want to thank Anthony Betancourt and his team over at Compass Law and Title and Closing. They handle closings for buyers and sellers. They do a great job. Jonathan and I were talking about surprises not being good during real estate transactions. Anthony's been in the business a long time, and they have a lot of experience, and they're very adept at identifying potential hiccups, potential speed bumps, potential potholes, potential brush fires ahead of time. So that way, if we see that this could happen, we can prepare for it 4 weeks out, 3 weeks out, and not 4 days or 2 days when it pops up at the end. So a little bit of foresight can help people out, because if you have a surprise at the end and it delays the transaction from closing, now what's going to happen? Okay, if you can't move into your new house, you've got to be out of your apartment or your existing house. Or if you have a place to live, what are you going to do with your movers? They can pick up your furniture, but there's no place to put the furniture. So it creates a lot of challenges when things don't go according to plan. And now if you know far enough ahead, great, then we can make plans and adjustments. But when you're trying to do something in the last 2, 3, 4, the last week of a transaction, it can be problematic. And that's why it's worth working with local, professional, experienced realtors, real estate agents, lenders, closing and title companies, and you do it like that. Now, Jonathan, who do you like to work with? Do you work with 1, 2, 3 closing and title companies? How do you handle that?
So similar ways that we do with our lenders. We're really focused on folks that are strong at communicating. So some attorneys are not set up structurally to have a paralegal that helps them out with stuff. They don't respond to their emails, so that can be quite impactful to both yourself as a real estate agent that's trying to do a good job, the lender that's trying to get things moving forward, and your buyer and or seller who's trying to get things communicated to them from a legal standpoint. So we do a lot of work with Lima Law, Balkan Title, Mark Hamer, he has his own private practice, Bevel Aqua Law, Iacoi Law. Bevel Aqua's awesome. They have Asta over there. She is phenomenal. She's always
Bevel Aqua and Iacoi, I've done closings with them. They're very good.
So that's and then there's Pat Foley out in Boston. So we have like a group that does Boston, like Jillian Shea, who's our lender, Constance Montesione, I always say her name incorrectly, and then Kelsey Huntoon does that a little bit for us as well, and then Jonathan Paulino does like the New Hampshire, Massachusetts area.
Okay.
So Pat Foley is our attorney out there, and we try to like just have a wide spread of folks. So that way we can cover the Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut states. Balkan does a lot of our stuff with Sarah Rasmussen and Brooke Belson over for Connecticut.
Okay, yep. Now, how have you found the markets or the consumers to differ from Connecticut to Rhode Island to Mass?
Yes, that's a great question. So in Massachusetts, a 4-bed, 2-bath, let's say quarter acre of land, property, you're looking at what, $700,000, $800,000, $900,000, depending on where in Massachusetts you are. So let's take that with a grain of salt. But you bring that into Rhode Island, you're about $500,000, $600,000, maybe a little bit more. But if you go to Connecticut, I was getting people houses like that for like $350.
Yeah.
And so just the level of glow up, it's insane.
Yeah. But the property taxes are higher in Connecticut.
Right. It sort of balances out.
Yep. Now, are the consumers any different as far as?
Yes.
Yeah. How? I mean, I know from Rhode Island to Mass, there's a difference between as you get closer to Boston. How about Connecticut?
Just people that are, so when you go in Connecticut with the areas that I cover, which is pretty much the right-hand side of the eastern border of Connecticut that touches Rhode Island, it's a lot of folks that are just looking to be out in the countryside. They don't want to be in the cities. They want to be close enough where they can get there in about 45 minutes, 30 minutes, but they really just want their privacy. A lot of folks that, like, they just like the gun laws, I guess, but they just want to be out there for those reasons. So I get a lot of, like, garbage men, people that are working from home,
Yep.
and things of that nature. I can't pull it off the top of my head
Sure.
right now. Rhode Island, it's a lot of folks that just want to really work here, and then Massachusetts. I mean, and also people that are now moving from Boston that want to make that commute to just be more price conscious.
Yeah.
And then Boston and the Massachusetts area. I mean, these are folks that are just, they know what they want. They have the cash for it. They have larger down payments.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've noticed too. It's with my Massachusetts buyers. It's like, it's much more competitive, and there are some houses in some areas you can come in 100,000 over asking price, and it's not enough.
We got beat at 150,000 over ask.
Yeah.
But those are the types of things again that we take into account when we're speaking with our buyer, and we're kind of setting the expectations early
Right.
of these are the kinds of properties we're submitting offers on. This is the kind of offers that they're expecting. We have to make peace with that now, otherwise this is the wrong area to be in.
Right, and that's a decision they have to make too. It's like, all right, look, yes, I know the house is listed for 850,000, but I'm telling you it's going to go for over $1 million.
Right.
So if that's just the way it is, and here's the data on all the other houses in the neighborhood, what they went for and what they were listed for, so if you really want this house, you need to put an offer in like that. Otherwise, we can certainly put an offer in for a lower number, but just be prepared. You're probably not going to get it.
Right. And something else to add in there, it's a lot of folks try to push back on agents like that. If anything, I would say look for that in a real estate agent that can be that direct with you, that is going to be honest and transparent, and not be the type of person to just cower to you.
Right.
Someone that's afraid of telling you the truth because they just want to keep your business, because that's only going to negatively impact you. So working with someone like Joe that just said something like what he just did, that's going to be the most profound and impactful to getting you in and out of the market quickly and unscathed.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons, knock on wood, I've been blessed in that my buyers who are, serious about becoming a homeowner or buying another home, they listen, and it's like, listen, this is what we're going to have to do to get this house. And working with great lenders is helpful too.
Oh, yeah.
As a listing agent, if I have an offer come in and it's with a lender that I don't know, or that I know is not a good communicator, that is not going to be valued, and I'll convey that to my seller. Say, listen, this is my experience with this lender. It's your decision, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, but this is my experience with this, lender in the past. So,
Right.
Because again, we want to try and avoid surprises.
Yeah, that could cost your seller tens of $20,000 of $30,000, if not more. I've seen it happen where I've heard from one particular agent where their broker told them to just keep stringing it along, even though they knew the pre-approval wasn't working. And it's just sad that kind of stuff happens. So you want to make sure you make the right choice the first time, and sometimes that right choice is $10,000, $15,000, $50,000 below what the best offer is. But what they do is they'll just use that as kind of what's the word I'm looking for? They use it as bait to get you in, and then when they pull it to inspections, they'll go and just ream you on all of the little things that pop up. Well, that's $10,000, $20,000 worth of damage.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Right.
And
And those are things too, like when I have a listing like that, if there's something, if I see, okay, we're listing your house and there's siding, you've got wood siding, clapboard siding, and the paint's peeling off or the boards are split, and it's like, listen, if you can take care of that now, take care of it, because if they see that, they're going to ask for, it's not going to be even though it's a $300 or $500 repair, they're going to ask for $2,000 or at least a price reduction, because they're going to think, oh, everything has to be done over. So let's just take care of it ahead of time, so we don't have to.
Yeah. I had a one of my listings. The seller, we had a light in the middle of the bedroom. It had 3 light bulbs coming off of it. One of the light bulbs had died, and a buyer walked in and said, oh, there's got to be an electrical problem here.
Yeah.
And we all know that that's just you got to replace the light bulb. So now going forward, I have a pre-list checklist that says replace all the light bulbs everywhere, because one, it shows it better in pictures, and it also shows better when people are walking through.
Excellent. Hey, folks, we went right up to the end, bumped it up. So no bumper music tonight. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Jonathan, thank you for coming to the radio show. We're going to have to get you on another time, but we will be back ASAP. P. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Have a good night. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I
was trying to talk quick.
I was looking here. It's like, oh crap.
Can they still hear us on this?
Over here we can. Yep. Hold on a second. I turned the microphone.